All right, welcome everybody. Appreciate you being here. I've got, man, this is my first tutorial out of thousands someday. I'd love to jump in and just start modeling right away, but we got to do the since this is a beginner level. Some of you may not have even downloaded FreeCAD yet, so let's just go ahead and do a quick download. I want to run through open the program up and then just run through describe what the functions are in the different panels and the icons and things like that. And then we'll go ahead and work a little bit on the navigation controls with your mouse. There's probably 10 or 15 varieties of how you can set that up. And I'm going to walk through it quickly because you'll be able to go back on your own and play with this, read up on it, and make your own decisions on certain things, how you want stuff set up regarding the mouse functionality. And then I'll just do a really quick tutorial. We'll just do a coaster, a square coaster. And we'll end the tutorial, and then follow on tutorials. I'll be able to just jump right into the items that we want to model. So here we go. The website is FreeCAD.org. That's where you want to go, and you'll see this beautiful page here on downloading a free 3D modeling CAD system. Can you believe it? Wow. I would have had to have paid thousands of dollars for something like this back in the day. So, all right. Once you get to that site, then obviously you go to download. You can hit download here. You can hit it in this, what I call the pull down menus up top. Either one will work. I'm going to go ahead and hit that, download. And then you have your different versions, your operating systems for your computer. I am a Windows person, so I would install that, which I've done. And for you, if you haven't installed it already, you would select one of these, select a button, and it will put a file into your download. It's a .exe file, I believe, or installation file. I can't remember what the dot file names are on these days, but you'll see it in there, and then you'll double click on that, and it will load the system onto your computer. Just follow all the prompts. You'll be fine. I usually just accept all of what they recommend and try not to customize it, because I end up making a mess out of it if I don't, because I'm not 100% sure of what I'm doing sometimes until I really open the program and use it and get to know it. Some things I don't know what I want installed or not. So now that I'm familiar with FreeCAD, I want to do an upgrade. When that upgrade comes out, I'll be a little more informed selecting. So if it's your first time, just go ahead and accept everything the way they recommend it, accept it, go forward, and it will get installed and you'll be ready to go. So while I'm here, I'm going to show you the features. I just want you to see this page so that you can read up on it yourself and get a little familiar with what they're offering, what FreeCAD can do. I really don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to, we got a lot to look at, but I do want you to know that it's there. You can go in here and deep dive if you like. All right. And get to the bottom here, and they show the most current one was the 1.0 release was in November, and then they show all the other releases prior to that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. After you do the installation, I'm not sure where they're going to put the icon. It'll either be on your desktop. I have mine down here on this bar, and just go ahead and open it. When you open it, you'll get to this page right here. And again, I'm going to go quickly through these, but through other lessons, I'm going to explain things a little bit better. But what you have here across the top, these are quick, you could call them quick steps. If you're already used to using if you're already used to using FreeCAD, or once you get used to using FreeCAD, you can use these as quick, what do you call it? It's just a quick hot button that will open it up, go straight to that workbench, and do the first one or two commands that are always repetitive when you go in there. So it saves you just a little bit of time, not a lot, but some. You'll have these examples here. These are things that you can open up to see. They're just examples to see what some models, already pre-made models, what they look like. But that's really not what we're trying to get into today. We'll come up here, and the way that I would normally do this as a beginner, new user, is come up to File and start something new. There you go. And then we have this right here. We are going to, I guess, I'll show you what the help button. Yeah, so go to the help button. I just want you to understand that this will take you back to that website that we downloaded from, and you'll go into documentation and getting started. There's a lot of great information in here. Personally, when I tried to use this to learn some FreeCAD a long time ago, I was a little confused. I guess I'm the type of person that has to, instead of navigating back and forth through the internet, I just wanted to print some stuff out and then use that to practice it. But for those of you that are good using the internet, jumping back and forth, you can go to these links here to get to certain places. But I brought you here because I want you to scroll down and look at this right here. Once you get a model up into the viewport labeled number 1 and 2, some of this other information, these panels over to the left, will come up. So let's just go through this real quick. Down here, they tell you what they're for. Number 1 and 2 is the main view, or the 3D view. I guess if you're in a workbench that's drawing 2D, then that would be your main view. But most of the time, it's going to be your 3D view. And then for number 3, this is your tree view. As you're building the model, you can see you start off, if you're in this workbench called Part Design, you'll start off with a body, and then there's steps underneath that. I can see a cylinder here, so they must have drawn that there. So that's what that is. And then there's also a task tab that they're not explaining, but if you hit the task tab, there will be commands that you can use to continue drawing. And usually that task tab will contain commands that are, I guess, frequently used, ready to use, instead of you going up here in the pull downs and all to these other icons. They kind of tell you what the next steps are, and you'll see that as we get into it. So there you go. That's important. The property one is number 4. As you select the items over here, it gives you data. You can see things like radius, angles, heights, location. And there's another tab right here for view, where you can change settings for the view, maybe the transparency of the item, change colors, things like that. So all that's going to be learned as we get through the different builds that I want to show you in these lessons. And then, so that's 4 is the property editor. Yeah. Right. Okay, now 5, the selection view. This is a panel that I personally normally don't leave on. It there may be some benefit to it. I just never used it, but I can see here that as you select items over here in the 3D view, it will give you the name of that device. You see interface, body, cylinder face number 5, and then you see up here in the tree is interface, which should be the name of the drawing, which the drawing is also shown down here on this tab. You got your start page and you have the name here. It's called interface. So under interface, you got your body, then you got your cylinder, and then they cut it off. They didn't show you anything after that, but that's what this is giving you here. And again, I don't use it, but I'll probably, as we're doing the tutorials, explore if there's any benefit to it, and if there is, I'll cover that as well, maybe sometime. Number 6, the report view is something that, again, I do not use. I think what happens, this will show errors. So while you're building a model, I believe, from what I'm used to, a window will jump up and tell you what your error is anyhow. So this is something that you don't have to leave on. And I'll show you how to turn these on and off too once we get into the lessons. 7, the Python console. The Python console. If you're familiar with programming, which I know just a tiny amount, enough to be dangerous, I do leave this on. I probably won't leave it on during the lessons, but I can look at it, and as I'm executing commands and designing my parts, I can see what the Python code is in there, and that interests me because you can actually cut and paste this code to make shortcuts. So if let's say you designed something and you went through like 10 steps to get there to finish that design, and you want to, that design you like, and you want to do it repetitively, maybe with just different dimensions, you could copy that coding and put it into, I think it's called a macro, give it a name, and you can use it in the future. You can just hit that one button and it'll go through all 10 steps for you without you having to repeat it on your own. So it's a shortcut, but then you might have to input some information for like X, Y, and Z dimensions. All right, let's try to move along here to status bar number 8 down here. That's something I don't normally leave on. I don't find a lot of value in having that on, but you do what makes sense to you and what your needs are. So then there's the 9, the toolbar area, 10 is the workbench, and then 11, the standard menus. So let's go back up here. 9, this area here is where you're doing most of your work, selecting the commands you want to use, the operations, whatever you want to call it. And then 10 is where you select your workbenches. And then number 11 up here, this row, you find that in most programs, your typical files and edits and those pull downs. But what's unique to FreeCAD is when you open a workbench, it will put the part design workbench up here as a pull down that you can hit, or select I should say, and all the commands will be in a column. Some people like that. That's how I used to operate when I was a proficient AutoCAD operator back in the day. I favored the pull downs in lieu of these icons, but I go back and forth in between now. I can use them both. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap that up. That covers that. And of course you can go down here and look into other stuff on your own. Oh yeah, I do want to cover, let me see, I think it's down here a little further. I'm going to go to mouse navigation. That's where I want to go. Let's scroll down and show you the way that you can configure your mouse for I think as you look through these different types, select and zoom are always going to be, the left button for select, and zoom is your I'll call it the roller to your wheel to roll it in one direction or the other to zoom in or zoom out on an object. Here for the rotate and pans, you'll see that changes for different setups. Right now, that's for Blender. For those that are used to using Blender, this is the CAD navigation. This is the one that I used to use until recently, trying to learn how to record YouTube videos and practicing FreeCAD. I found a different one that I like better. It's more efficient in my opinion. I'll show you that as we go down. And of course, some of these involve you using Control and Shift keys on your keyboard. I'd rather get away from that if I can. Here's one called Gesture. You can see what you have to select for doing your rotating, tilting, and panning. And then you also have, I guess if you're on a touchscreen, if you're on a touchscreen, these are the finger controls you have to do what you can also do on the mouse up here. So go down, here's May gesture. I have no idea what that is for, but it is just a different way to do all your pans and tilts and zooms. Open Cascade. Open Inventor. I do have Inventor experience. I did do some modeling on that, but I chose not to use that one. I'll show you the one when I get down to it. See, there's a lot of selections here. Plenty. You'll certainly find something that you resonate with that makes sense to you and use it. All right, there's SolidWorks. For you SolidWorks users, I have used SolidWorks myself. A little, not a whole lot. And the Tinkercad, that's the one that I favor because I can just use my right button to rotate the view, and it also I can tilt it forward, back, rotate, things like that, and then I hold the mouse, the wheel. I gotta get used to saying that. The wheel, you hold that down, and you can pan around, move the objects around on the screen. So, to me, my opinion, that is the most efficient one because you're not messing with Alt keys, Control keys, and trying to push more than one button at a time to get something done. And then here's your touch pad. Okay, wow, that was a lot to cover. But, okay, I showed the navigation styles. Let's go back into FreeCAD. Okay, I'm back into FreeCAD, and I think what I want to do is change some things here and show you how to change them too. Let's see where this takes us. We go up here, Edit, Preferences. Oh, here under Edit Preferences, this is where you can change the look of your CAD system. You can see it. I just changed to dark and applied. Let's see what happens. Come on, there you go. That's the dark. This is the classic. I'll hit the apply there with the kind of purplish blue background. That's what I've been used to for many years, but I use the dark background. Just it's easier on my eyes. But for the purpose of these tutorials, I'm going to go with the light because I believe it's easier to see when I'm demonstrating certain things. All right, So the icons up here, these guys here, I'm going to go ahead and increase those to large. And let me hit apply. That'll make it a little bit easier on your eyes. And once I get into the tutorials, if I feel like I need to make those even larger, we do have extra large, which I'm not ready to go there yet. All right, you go to part workbenches and close that out with the X. All right, so once you get into FreeCAD, this pull down here is a selection of your workbenches. I'm not going to cover all these. Maybe at some point I will, but I'm going to let you know that the most common used are part design, which is what I use, part, which in my opinion is an older style of 3D modeling. It's sort of the same type of function that I used back in the day. And then, so we got those two. And then you're going to spend a lot of time in Sketcher. And then at some point you're going to want to use TechDraw to make shop drawings. So, and one other thing I'll add, I use Draft sometimes. It's a 2D workbench, but I use it sometimes just to work things out. If I have an idea I'm playing with, instead of drawing it on GraphPad, I go into Draft and work that. It's a little cumbersome. It's not the highest tech 2D software, but it's not bad once you get used to how it behaves. So let me go to, I want to go to part, although my focus after today is really going to be part design. I want to go to part because I want to show you that you can do some easy part modeling with what they call primitive shapes, or pre-made, where you just select it. There's a cube, there's a cylinder, sphere, cone, all that, the torus, and you assign it values, size. So let me hit the task. I told you earlier, this is where they usually tell you, oh, it didn't do it on part, but part design it does. So let's go ahead and select one of these. I'm going to do a cube, and it puts right there on the screen, and it puts it on the 0 axis of X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do the sphere, and all I'm doing, I'm just selecting these. Oh, and put it back on model. Okay, all right, they're not asking me for sizes. That's weird. Anyhow, I'll figure that out. And then let's do the torso. All right. Oh, I must have turned some of my panels off. My mistake. All right, here we go. Let me go under view and see if I can figure out panels. Got model task, selection view. Okay. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Turn selection off. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you can turn these views like the Python console and other views off and on. Okay, so under the model tab, I've dropped the cube in, the cone, and the torus. And down here we have the data, the radiuses. Let me go to view. This is where we can change colors, line widths, and things like that. The view data. This is all the XYZ data location data, things like that. But the thing that's baffling me right now is when I used to select these, I thought a screen would come up and ask me what size I want to make them. So what I'm going to do is go back to the model tab and show you that as you select these, like the cube, here's your links right here. I'll figure out why it didn't ask me, but for right now, I'll show you that you can change it here. You can change the sizes, width, make it smaller. Let's go to the height, make it larger. I'm just using arrows to show you how to change the sizes. You can you can click it and you can roll your mouse wheel, and it will do the same thing in like increments of 1 millimeter at a time. You can just type a value in there. You go back there and just type 30. Enter that. So there's various ways you can change the parameters. Let's try it with the cone. We've got 2 radiuses. There you go. You can see as I roll the wheel, got that. The other radius there. The height, play with that. An angle, we'll do something with that later. Alright, now I want to select the torus. You can either select it here, you can select it up here. You come down and you can change. I don't see it doing anything. Uh-oh. Okay, it didn't do it in real time. Okay, so I'm going to roll it down to 3. There we go. Okay, so while we're here, and I've got my mouse pad set to TinkerCAD, which is the simple selection button, is the left side of my mouse. I can sit here and select these objects. I can hold down my wheel, push the wheel down and hold it down, and then I can move my mouse around to do that. Just to pan around. I can take the wheel and roll it in either direction to zoom in and out. And then I can take my right button, hold that down, and then I can start to spin the object around. Okay, so you can play with that. These are your coordinates over here. I've got these scaled up, and yours may be smaller, so let me see if I can find a way to scale it. So up here in edit, I think it's in, might be in display. There we go. So right now I got it set for 25%. You can use the arrows to go up and down. You can type in, I'm just going to put in 50 and hit apply. There you go. I think when FreeCAD loads up, I think you're setting at about 10% if I'm not mistaken. 10-15%. Yeah, you usually get a small coordinates down there in the corner, which I'm used to it, but actually 25 is not bad. I want to set it for 20, not quite as large. And that's big enough for me to view. So let me hit OK, I'm good there. All right, let's go up here and see what this is up here. You probably notice, again, holding my right button down and moving it. And also you see that little red dot where I clicked right in there. That's your center point, wherever you click. If you click up here, right click, your center point's going to be there, and it's going to swing around that center point. All right, so usually you want to just click it kind of around inside the object itself so that it spins on that axis. So look at the upper right. You see a cube up there that's labeled top, front, and right. That's letting you know the orientation. but it's also good that you can select it. So if I select top, I get a top view. And then these arrows here, you can move it like that. You can go left and right, select that. You can even twist the view around like that. And I'm going to right click, pull it around, and I want to hit top. Or you can also hit these little panels here in between, and it'll set it to that view. And we hit that one there. There you go. So that's the way I just panned it, held down the wheel and panned it, moved it around. Okay, so this cube up here, if you hit this here, you can change the way this view looks. And if anybody's used Blender, they'll notice this, that when you change the perspective view, what that's doing is the objects that are closer to you are larger, and the ones that the objects or the lines, the back side of the object, I should say, I guess, further into the screen, they're smaller, and that's the way our human vision is. So as you zoom in, things get much larger, and in the background they stay small. So this line here and this line here appears to be larger than the one back there, and that's just a perspective view. If you change it back to orth, and by the way, I selected that, then I select orthographic. Now the forefront of the object and I guess the background, they stay proportioned in size relative to each other. So I don't know if I'm saying that right, but for example, this line here and the same line back here, they're both the same size. Where when you switch over to the perspective, now this one's larger and that one's smaller because it's in the background. So, all right. Hopefully I didn't over-explain that. So, okay, now let's look at this. Let's go back into here, and you could hit isometric view to just go ahead and spin it, and it'll put it in that position every time. I use isometric often, but I don't go here to switch it to isometric. What I do is I use this pull down up here. You see that isometric symbol. You also can switch the views, top, right. It's a quick way to do that. So you can use either one. You can use the cube up here in the upper right or this pull down. But I find myself hitting isometric a lot because I just want to be able to see multiple sides at one time when I'm designing. So there you go. You can use that. You can use this pull down to navigate around to see your object from many sides. And okay, fit all. Let's say you lose your object, like where'd it go? I guess you can hit fit all and it brings it back. All right, and fit selection. Let's just select the top of this cone, and then I can take that selection and it'll bring it up on the page. It'll fit it to the page. All right, I'm going to roll the wheel to go back, zoom out, align to selection. So I selected the top of that cone. When I hit align to selection, the view, our viewpoint should align right to that. There you go. I'm going to hit perspective again. If I want to align to this side over here, align to that. Okay, perspective. All right, so the last one here is the movable cube. I think that is, yeah, a check mark. So now this cube, you can select it with your left button. See what the right button does. Nope, the left button, select button. You can put this anywhere on the screen. I I use it up here. I'm just used to it being there, and that's what I use. So I'll go there and uncheck it so that it stays there. And this dot up here, I don't use it often, but it just appears to be swinging the view around 180 degrees. Put it back there. So now let me grab the center wheel. I'm going to rotate it around. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to this new setup. So I'm using the right select button, spin it around, and then from that view, let me try the dot now. Yeah, it just swings the view from left to right 180 degrees. So it's a quick, if you're like working on this side of the item and you just like tap it real quick, it just spins you around to the other side. So you can flip it 180 degrees quickly. That's something I don't use often, but I might find myself using it now that I know what that does. So yeah, I'm learning some things as I'm trying to instruct them to you. Okay, that's navigation. Let me see, what else do I have to talk about? We went over the workbenches. Oh, okay. Let me show you something here real quick. Okay, here we go. After that long explanation, now I'm gonna PowerPoint you to death here. All right, here we go. So we got the part design workbench, which I'm gonna show you how to use that before we end this video. And then you got the sketcher. Those are the two that you jump back and forth between while you're designing your part. You go into the part design, you establish a body, and once you establish a body, you start a sketch, which we'll show you how to do that as well, and that initiates your shape. Once you get into Sketcher, you draw an outline of your object, you put dimensions on it. Of course, you want it to be sized properly. You want it to be dimensioned. At least I do. It's a good habit to get into. Dimensions are necessary, for accuracy, especially after you start stacking parts. You're building individual bodies in part design, and then you're fitting them together in assemblies. And so the dimensions are going to be important, and constraints, which I'll go into that, explain that a little bit better. And then once you do your outline, dimensions, and constraint, you close Sketcher, and it defaults back to the part design workbench, which then you execute a command called pad to give the object some, a height, or thickness, whatever you want to call it. It gives it its third dimension. So then you go, if you're satisfied with that part the way it is, then fine, you don't need to do anything else. But most of the time you'll be going back to the Sketcher and doing other modifications to it. So those are the iterations of your design. Just opening up part, going into Sketcher, setting the outline, dimensions, constraints, close it, go to part design, do the pad, modifications, and then that's it. So hopefully that was helpful for those that love to learn visually, like I do. Okay, so here we are. We're back at FreeCAD. So now let's use Workbench to, I guess we'll do that coaster that I talked about. So this is how we do that. First, let me go ahead and close this drawing out. You can close out the tab here. That'll close the drawing. Or you can go up into File and close it there. So either way. You're going to find with FreeCAD, there are probably two 2, 3, up to maybe 4 ways to do something, either using the pull downs or right clicking the screen. You'll get used to it and you'll find your favorite ways to execute commands. You'll get habits like I did. So I'm not going to save it. I'm going to discard this. Alright, so here we are back at the beginning. I'm going to go in and remember I showed you to start a new file here. Well, now this is a different way. Here's the icon for new. So now I'm going to hit that. I'm going to go into the part design workbench, which most of you, it should already be set to part design when you go into new, but since we were working in part, I'll come back to part design. Okay, let's start a new file, and this time instead of using the pull down to start new, we're going to use this icon here, which is new, start new. Here we are in the FreeCAD. This task panel is giving you the next step that we should do, which is create a body. But I want to show you that the model tab is empty, but when I do that, this create body is not going to be there when we get back, so we'll have to select it here. But I want to show you what's in the model tab, so let's do that. Yep, there we go. So there's nothing there now. Go back to task. Oh, it's still there. Okay, great. So our next step would be to create a body. Create the body. Now I'm going to go back to the model tab to show you what it populated. And then we know the next step is create sketch. If we come back to this tab and it's gone, we also can do the create sketch here, as well as, like I told you, there's always pull down here. Oh, you know what? We wouldn't have it in that one. So it would be just here and here for right now. All right, so model tab, we created a body, and that body set up origins, which I'm going to put here, and all of your XYZ and your XY planes, all your planes are there. You just can't see them because this eye right here is crossed out. So you hit the eye so you can visualize it, and there are all your planes. Okay, and your axes. That's going to be more, this will be more beneficial for you once you get better at creating parts and troubleshooting and things like that. You'll be able to turn this origin on to help you get oriented with your part. So I'm going to hit that triangle to collapse that and go back to the task tab, and yep, we're missing the sketcher. So we can select it here. Now it wants to know what plane you want to sketch on, and most of the time we'll start out on the XY plane. So I'll go ahead and do that. Now you can select it once here and then hit OK, or you can also double click this line and it'll jump to it, or you can also select the plane out here. Either one. Either way. So I'm used to double clicking in this panel. So let me do that. I'll just go up here and double click that. And there, now we are on an XY plane. X and Y, that's the plane we're on. And now Sketcher is ready for us to draw something. Let's start out with, again, I just want to give you a quick item to build, and I want to keep it simple because other videos are going to go more into detail. Alright, so I'm going up here to this pull down, and I'm going to do a rectangle that has a dot in the center, which means centered. So a centered rectangle, hit that. I'm going to select that dot, but I want you to see in the middle of that purple circle, there's crosshairs. And the crosshairs are where you'll make your selection. And then to the lower right quadrant of those crosshairs, you see that symbol of the rectangle with the dot in it. So that is showing you what you're about to create based on what you selected above. So let's put our crosshairs on that dot, and it should lock in. There, you see now there's an X to the right of that symbol, showing that our crosshairs are on that dot and we're locked in. So I'm going to select it with my left button. And now let me drag. I'm not holding any buttons down. I'm just moving the mouse out, getting a size. And we got a couple of options here. While the bottom horizontal dimension is highlighted and sort of flashing, we can type in our keyboard and it will size it for you. And once you type that in and then hit enter, it'll jump to the vertical dimension and you can type that in. But what I'm going to do is take my left button and just select out here anywhere. Hit it. There you go. All right. Now I'm going to right click to get out of that mode of drawing a rectangle. And I want to give these dimensions on my own. So I want to select this line and to give it a dimension. This is a drop down, and here's a vertical constraint. Hit that. And we're going to work in millimeters now, and follow on tutorials. I'll show you how to use inches. I just want to do a quick view for that. A quick item for that dopamine hit. So I know that a coaster is usually about 4 inches by 4 inches. And I also know that it is 25.4 millimeters per inch. So I'm just going to round to 25 and say that 4 inches is going to be 100 millimeters. So I'm going to type in 100 and then hit enter. And you see how that got sized to 100. Now I'm going to use my wheel, remember to spin it to zoom in and out, zoom down because now the object's gotten larger. Now I'm going to select this line. It could be this line down here, it could be the top line, it doesn't matter. Hit this one and I'm going to put another dimension, but this time the horizontal constraint. And let's type 100 there as well. And hit enter, or you can select OK. I'll try OK. There we go. So we have a 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter rectangle. It's centered on the Z-axis. It's fully constrained, which other tutorials I'll get into that. I just wanted to draw something to give you something before we end the video. So now once you got it dimensioned, remember I told you that you outline, you dimension it, and then you close it and it defaults back to part design. And now there's our rectangle waiting to be assigned a pad or thickness, which is here, or it can be done here, or it can be done in the pull down. Going down here, I think it's under, there you go, additive, a pad there. I'm used to just using this over here, so I'll select pad there, and there you go. It gave it a thickness of 10 millimeters, and I know that 1/4 of an inch is usually, I'll just go with about 1/4 of an inch, which in millimeters, that should be about 6.5 to 7 millimeters. And I'm going to type 6.5. I'm just doing it in my head. I'm sure y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. All right, so there you go. We got the part. I'm going to use the wheel to zoom back. Use the wheel to zoom in. I'm going to press down on the right side of my mouse and just move that around so you can see your object. And then what I usually do is I hit the perspective button there to put it in perspective. Okay, so let's go to the model tab, select the body, and then down here you'll find your dimensional data. We'll go over here, placement, position, that's where it's positioned. Remember we set it to 0, 0, 0 on the z-axis when we did the sketch, and then over here on view you have other information, which are really the purpose of today's video is not to do all that, but just to give you something before we go. Let's save this if you like, because we can use it later in other follow-on videos, and I'll do a save or save as, whatever you want to do. I have my FreeCAD files that I'll save it there. Let's just call it coaster. Unnamed, there you go, coaster. And then I'll hit save. I already have one in there. Replace it, yes, I'll replace it. That's it. I appreciate your time. I know it was a lot to cover. I haven't edited the video yet, so it probably ended up being a long one. I really don't want to do long videos, but I felt like there's so much to cover just to get started instead of just jumping in and start designing items. This is for a woodworker's perspective. That is my intent. So going forward, now that we got all this other stuff out of the way, I'm just going to jump in and start using FreeCAD from a woodworker's perspective, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so thank you for stopping by. I know that probably went a little bit long. I've got something I got to work on, is making the videos shorter and beef up my skills for teaching on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll try to be back soon with some videos. We'll start hitting designing items from a woodworker's perspective, and we'll just go from there. So I appreciate your time. Have a great day. Billy out.